Rich mountain man bought her at auction, gave her the money. Buy your freedom or stay free here. The morning air was cold and heavy with dust. The small open ground near the old market was already crowded. People stood in loose groups, talking in low voices. Some looked curious. Some looked uncomfortable. Others acted like this was just another normal day. For her, it was the most difficult day of her life. She stood at the edge of the crowd, hands tightly folded in front of her. Her clothes were clean but worn. Her eyes stayed on the ground, not because she was shy, but because she was tired of meeting judging looks. She had not slept the whole night. Every sound felt louder than usual. Every whisper felt like it was about her. She never imagined her life would bring her here. Only a year ago she had been living a simple but honest life. She worked long hours, saved small amounts of money, and took care of her family as best as she could. But life changed suddenly. Her father fell sick. Medical bills piled up. Then came the loan. The interest grew faster than she could earn. When her father passed away, the debt did not disappear with him. Instead, it fell on her shoulders. She tried everything: extra work, selling personal things, asking relatives. Nothing was enough. When the lenders came, they did not listen to her tears or explanations. They only wanted their money back. Someone suggested this auction-like system. It was not official. It was not spoken about openly, but everyone in the area knew it existed. Desperate people were matched with wealthy landowners who needed labor. Money changed hands. Dignity was often lost. She told herself she had no choice. As she stood there, she felt smaller than ever. People looked at her like she was an object, not a human being. Some avoided her eyes. Some stared too long. A few whispered comments made her chest tighten, but she forced herself to stay calm. She kept repeating one thought in her mind: this will pass. I just need to survive. The man organizing the event cleared his throat and called for attention. He spoke loudly, explaining the process in a practiced voice, as if he had done this many times before. Names were read. Short descriptions were given. When her turn came, her name echoed through the crowd. It felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else. She stepped forward slowly. The man spoke about her age, her ability to work, her clean record. Nothing about her kindness. Nothing about her struggles. Nothing about who she really was. Just details meant to increase interest. The bidding began, but it was slow. People hesitated. Some shook their heads. Others whispered and looked away. She felt her face burn with shame. Each second felt like a minute. She wondered if it was worse to be chosen or to be unwanted. Then from the back of the crowd, a calm voice spoke. The amount named was higher than expected. People turned to look. The man who had spoken stood apart from the others. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed simply. His clothes were clean but plain. No flashy signs of wealth, but his presence was strong, quiet, steady. She had heard of him. People in the region knew about the rich mountain man. He owned land far up in the hills. He rarely came to town. Some said he was cold. Some said he was strange. Others said he was fair but distant. No one really knew him. The bidding stopped almost immediately. No one tried to raise the amount. The man organizing the event looked relieved. Money was exchanged quickly. Papers were marked. Just like that, it was over. Her hands trembled. She did not look at the man. She expected harsh instructions, demands, or at least a cold order to follow him. Instead, there was silence. He stepped closer, but not too close. His voice was low and even. "You can walk," he said simply. She looked up, confused. "Where?" she asked. "Anywhere you want," he replied. The crowd watched closely, trying to understand what was happening. She followed him a short distance away from the noise. Her heart raced. She prepared herself for disappointment. Kindness, she had learned, often came with a price. They stopped near a quiet corner. The man reached into his jacket and took out the same amount of money he had just paid. He placed it gently in her hands. "For you," he said. Her breath caught. "Why?" she whispered. "You decide," he said calmly. Use this money to clear your debt and leave, or come with me and work on my land. Either way, you are free." She stared at him, unable to speak. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever placed a choice in her hands without force or pressure. The noise of the crowd faded into the background. Her mind struggled to catch up with her heart. She wanted to cry, but she held it back. She was afraid that if she started, she would not be able to stop. He did not rush her. He did not explain himself. He simply waited. For the first time in a long time, she felt something unfamiliar but powerful. Hope. Not loud hope. Not dramatic hope. Just a quiet feeling that maybe, just maybe, her life was not over. She looked down at the money, then back at the man. The decision felt heavy, but it was hers. Whatever she chose next would be the beginning of something new. And as the cold wind passed through the market, she realized that the auction had ended, but her real story was only just beginning. She did not answer him right away. Her fingers closed slowly around the money, as if it might disappear if she did not hold it tight. The notes felt heavier than they should have, not because of their value, but because of what they represented. A way out. A choice. Something she had not been given in a very long time. Around them, people were still watching. Some tried to pretend they were not curious, but their eyes kept returning to the strange scene. This was not how things usually went. The man who had organized the auction shifted from one foot to the other, clearly uncomfortable. He was used to quick endings, not moments that made people think. She finally spoke, her voice low. "If I leave," she said, "no one will stop me." "No one," the mountain man replied. His tone did not change. It was not kind in a soft way and not cold either. It was steady, like a fact that did not need decoration. She swallowed. "And if I stay?" "Then you stay because you want to," he said, "not because you owe me." Those words stayed with her. Oh, her whole life had become a long list of things she owed. Money, time, energy. Silence. Now someone was telling her she did not owe him anything, even after he had paid for her in front of everyone. She nodded slowly. "I need time," she said. "You have it," he answered. He turned slightly toward the crowd and spoke just loud enough for them to hear. "She will decide on her own. This is finished." There was nothing more to say. People slowly began to disperse, disappointed that there was no drama, no argument, no clear ending they could talk about later. The market noise returned little by little. Voices rose, feet moved. Life went on. She stepped away from the corner and sat on a low stone wall nearby. Her legs felt weak. She placed the money in her bag, then rested her hands on her knees. Her thoughts ran in circles. If she left now, she could pay off most of the debt. Maybe all of it if she was careful. She could return to her village, start again, find work. It would be hard but familiar. People would talk, but they always did. At least she would be free of this strange situation. But if she stayed, she did not even know what staying really meant. The mountain man did not stand over her. He leaned against a wooden post a few steps away, giving her space. He did not look at her too much. That made it easier to breathe. After a while she asked, "Why did you do it?" He looked at her then, not sharply, just directly. "Because I could," he said, "and because no one else did." That answer surprised her. It was simple, almost too simple. No long explanation. No story meant to impress her. Just the truth as he saw it. She nodded again. Silence returned between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It felt like a pause, not an ending. Eventually she stood up. "I'll come with you," she said, "for now." "For now is enough," he replied. They did not leave immediately. He arranged transport, paid the necessary people, and made sure everything was done openly. There were no secret conversations, no threats, no rushed movements. She noticed these things even if she did not comment on them. Trust did not come easily to her, but respect did. The journey to the mountains took most of the day. The road became narrower as they climbed higher. Trees grew thicker. The air felt cleaner, cooler. She watched the land change through the window, feeling like she was crossing into a different world. When they finally arrived, the place surprised her. She had expected something grand or intimidating. Instead, the house was large but simple, built with stone and wood. It looked strong, not showy. The land around it was wide and quiet. No crowds, no noise, just space. "You'll stay in the east wing," he said as they stepped inside. "It's separate, you'll have privacy." She looked at him carefully. "And the work?" "There's always work," he said, "but it's fair. You'll be paid, you'll have days off. If you decide to leave, you leave." Again, no pressure, no hidden meaning. The room she was given was clean and warm. A bed, a small table, a window that looked out over the hills. She placed her bag down slowly, feeling something close to relief for the first time in months. That night, she barely slept. Not because she felt unsafe, but because her mind would not slow down. Every sound made her alert. Every shadow made her think. She was waiting for something to go wrong, but nothing did. The days that followed were steady and quiet. She helped in the kitchen, cleaned, learned how things worked on the land. Other workers were there too, men and women who treated her like she belonged. No one asked questions. No one made comments about the auction. It was as if her past had been left at the gate. The mountain man kept his distance. He spoke to her when needed, about work or supplies, nothing more. Sometimes she saw him riding across the land early in the morning or late in the evening, always alone. He carried his success lightly, like something earned but not worshipped. Slowly her body began to relax. Her hands stopped shaking. Her sleep grew deeper. She laughed once, then felt surprised by the sound of it. One afternoon, as she rested near the fields, she took out the money he had given her and counted it again. It was still there, real, untouched, waiting for her decision. She realized then that the choice had not been a one-time thing. He had not asked her to decide quickly and forget it. Every day she stayed, she was choosing again, and that made all the difference. She did not know how long she would remain in the mountains. She did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time in a long while, she was not surviving from one fear to the next. She was living between two open doors. And that space, that quiet space of choice and dignity, began to change her in ways she did not yet fully understand. The weeks passed slowly, but in a good way. Each day had a rhythm. She woke up early, helped with morning tasks, and learned more about the land and the people who lived on it. The mountains no longer felt cold or distant. They felt steady, like they were watching over everything quietly. At first, she stayed careful. She spoke less and observed more. Years of struggle had taught her that peace could disappear without warning, but nothing here changed suddenly. Rules stayed the same. Words matched actions. That alone made her feel safer than she had felt in a long time. She was paid regularly for her work. The money was not much, but it was fair. When she received her first payment, she stared at it for a long time before putting it away. It was the first money she had earned without fear attached to it. No one stood over her. No one reminded her what she owed. It was hers. The mountain man remained a quiet presence. He did not check on her constantly. He did not ask personal questions. When he spoke, it was direct and respectful. Sometimes he asked how the work was going. Sometimes he simply nodded in greeting as he passed by. There was no pressure to impress him or please him. This confused her at first. She had grown used to people wanting something in return. Silence usually meant danger or disappointment. Here, silence felt neutral, almost peaceful. One evening, while helping prepare food, she talked with one of the older women who had worked there for years. The woman spoke gently, as if choosing each word with care. "He's always been like this," the woman said quietly. "Keeps his distance. Doesn't interfere unless needed." "Why?" she asked. The woman shrugged. "Life taught him to value space. He believes people do better when they are not controlled." Those words stayed with her. Slowly, she began to allow herself small moments of comfort. She took longer walks in the evenings. She stood by the window and watched the fog move across the hills. She breathed deeply, feeling the clean air fill her lungs. One afternoon, while organizing supplies, she found herself smiling for no reason at all. The realization startled her. She had forgotten what it felt like to be calm without guilt. But calm also brought questions. One night, she took out the money he had given her at the market and placed it on the table. She counted it carefully. It was still enough to clear most of her debt. The thought of leaving returned, stronger than before. If she left now, she could start again somewhere else. She could build a life with no one watching, no rumors, no past following her. The idea felt tempting. The next morning she saw him outside, fixing part of the fence alone. Without planning to, she walked toward him. "I need to ask you something," she said. He looked up and nodded. "Go ahead." "If I leave tomorrow," she said slowly, "will you try to stop me?" "No," he replied immediately. "If I take the money and never come back." "That's your right," she hesitated. "And if I stay longer?" "Then you stay," he said. "As long as you want." She searched his face for something hidden, some sign of disappointment or expectation. There was none. "Don't you ever wonder why I haven't left yet?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "I assume you're deciding what kind of freedom you want." That answer surprised her more than anything else he had said before. That day, she understood something important. Freedom was not just about escaping bad situations. It was also about choosing where to remain. Her work changed over time. She learned new skills, took on more responsibility, and gained confidence. Other workers began to trust her judgment. She started helping newcomers, offering guidance the way no one had offered it to her before. At night, she wrote letters she never sent, letters to her past self, letters to her father, letters to a future she was still unsure about. Writing helped her organize her thoughts and emotions. There were moments of doubt. Sometimes she woke up afraid that everything would suddenly end. Sometimes she wondered if staying made her weak. The voices of society were hard to silence completely. One afternoon, news from the nearby town reached the mountain. People were talking again. Some claimed she was being controlled. Some said she was lucky. Others said she was foolish. None of them knew the truth. The words hurt more than she expected. That evening she stood alone on the edge of the land, staring down the long road that led away. He approached quietly and stopped a few steps away. "You don't have to listen to them," he said. "I know," she replied, "but it's hard not to." "They speak from distance," he said. "You live from experience." She nodded, grateful for the reminder. As months passed, she realized how much she had changed. Her posture was different, her voice steadier. She trusted herself more. Fear no longer controlled every decision. One evening, during dinner with the workers, laughter filled the room. She laughed too, openly this time. In that moment, she understood something deeply personal. Freedom was not just leaving a place where pain existed. It was staying somewhere without fear. Later that night, she took the money and placed it in a small box. She did not hide it. She did not throw it away. She simply acknowledged it as a symbol of choice, not escape. She still did not know what she would do in the future, but she knew one thing for sure. Whatever path she chose next would not be forced, and that knowledge made her stronger than any money ever could. The change did not happen all at once. It came slowly, like clouds gathering before a storm. At first, she noticed small things. A worker from a nearby land asked her careful questions. A trader in town looked at her with curiosity instead of respect. Whispers followed her when she went to buy supplies. People smiled, but their smiles felt thin. She understood then that peace does not stop the world from talking. One afternoon, while returning from town, she heard her name spoken behind her back. The voices were not loud, but they were sharp. They spoke about her stay in the mountains, about the rich man, about the auction that many pretended to forget but never truly did. Some words were filled with envy, some with judgment, none with understanding. She kept walking. Her steps were steady, but her chest felt tight. Back at the house, she placed the supplies down and sat quietly by the window. The hills looked the same as always, calm and wide. But inside her, something was restless. She realized that while she had found safety here, the world outside had not changed its rules. People still wanted simple stories. They wanted to label things they did not understand. That night, sleep did not come easily. The next days were harder. A few workers avoided her eyes, not because they believed the rumors, but because rumors make people uncomfortable. Others tried to reassure her, telling her not to listen. Their kindness helped, but it did not erase the weight she felt. She wondered if staying was causing more trouble than leaving. One morning, a letter arrived from town. It was from someone who had once helped her find work long ago. The letter spoke of an opportunity, a stable position, fair pay, and a place to live. It was not easy work, but it was honest. Most importantly, it was far away. A fresh start, with no shadows from the past. She read the letter 3 times. The idea of leaving felt real now, not just a thought. She imagined packing her few belongings, taking the money, and walking down the long road. She imagined a place where no one knew her story, where no one looked at her with questions in their eyes. But she also imagined the quiet mornings in the mountains, the respect she had earned, the calm that had slowly rebuilt her confidence. She imagined leaving without fear, but also without this sense of belonging she had not expected to find. That evening, she asked to speak with him. They sat outside, where the air was cool and the sky was turning orange. He listened as she spoke. She told him about the letter, about the rumors, about the feeling that she was standing between 2 lives. When she finished, she waited. She expected advice, or at least an opinion. "You should go if you want to," he said. "That's all?" she asked. "That's everything," he replied. "If staying costs you your peace, then it's not the right place anymore." His words were not dramatic, they were honest, and that honesty made the decision harder, not easier. "What if I leave and regret it?" she asked quietly. "Then you'll know you chose," he said. Regret is easier to carry than feeling trapped. She looked at him for a long moment. "You really don't mind?" He met her gaze calmly. "I mind if people feel controlled. I don't mind if they move on." That night she lay awake again, but this time her thoughts were clearer. She realized something important. For a long time she had defined freedom as escape. Then she learned it could also mean staying. Now she understood a third truth. Freedom also meant facing judgment and still choosing what felt right. The next days were filled with quiet goodbyes that were not yet spoken. She continued her work, but her mind was elsewhere. She walked the land slowly, as if trying to memorize it. The trees, the paths, the sounds. People noticed the change in her. Some asked gently. Others waited. One afternoon, she stood at the edge of the property, looking down the road again. The same road that once felt like a threat now felt like an option. She took the money from the box and held it in her hands. She understood that leaving would not erase her past. Staying would not silence the world. No choice came without cost. Later that evening, the workers gathered for a simple meal. Laughter rose and fell. Stories were shared. She listened more than she spoke. These people had become part of her life. Not because she had to stay, but because she had chosen to. After the meal, she stood up. "I may be leaving soon," she said calmly. The room went quiet. Faces turned toward her. Some showed surprise, some sadness. No one showed anger. "You'll always be welcome here," one of them said. She nodded, grateful. When she spoke with him again, she told him she had not decided yet. He accepted that without comment. He did not ask for a timeline. He did not remind her of what he had given her. He simply treated her the same as always. That, more than anything, confirmed that her freedom was real. Days passed. The letter from town waited on her table. The mountains waited too. She felt torn, but no longer afraid. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, she realized something surprising. No matter where she went next, she would carry this lesson with her. That dignity is not given by place or people, but by the ability to choose without fear. And that realization made the road ahead feel less frightening than it ever had before. The morning she made her decision, the mountains were very quiet. The air felt light, as if the land itself was waiting. She woke before sunrise and sat on the edge of her bed, listening to her own breathing. There was no fear in her chest this time, only calm. She washed her face, dressed slowly, and packed her small bag. She did not rush. Every movement felt meaningful. She placed the money carefully inside the bag, not as something she was running toward, but as something she respected. It was proof of choice, not rescue. When she stepped outside, the sky was turning soft shades of gold. The land looked the same as it always had, yet she felt different, stronger, clearer. She walked across the yard and saw him near the stable, checking on the animals as he did every morning. He noticed her bag but said nothing at first. He finished what he was doing, then turned to face her. "You've decided," he said, not as a question. "Yes," she replied. He nodded. "Where will you go?" She took a breath. "I'm leaving the mountains. I accepted the work offer from town. It's time for me to stand fully on my own." There was no sadness in his face, only quiet understanding. "That sounds right," he said. She waited, surprised by how much his simple acceptance meant to her. "I was afraid you might think I was ungrateful." He shook his head. "Gratitude doesn't mean staying, it means remembering." Those words settled deep inside her. They stood in silence for a moment, then she spoke again. "What you did for me, I will never forget it." "I didn't give you a life," he replied calmly. "You built one." Soon the others gathered. News travels quickly in quiet places. There were hugs, kind words, promises to stay in touch. Some eyes were wet. Hers were too, but she did not hide it. Tears no longer felt like weakness. When it was time to leave, she walked down the long road with steady steps. She did not look back right away. Not because she was afraid, but because she did not want the past to pull her backward. When she finally turned, the house stood strong against the hills, just as it always had. She raised her hand in a small farewell. Then she continued on. The journey was not easy. Starting over never is. The work in town was demanding. The days were long. There were moments when doubt tried to return. But each time it did, she reminded herself that she was here by choice, not desperation. People in town eventually learned her story. Some judged, some misunderstood, but their opinions no longer shaped her steps. She had learned that the loudest voices are often the least informed. She paid off her debt slowly and honestly. Each payment felt like lifting a stone from her chest. When the final amount was cleared, she walked out into the sunlight and smiled to herself. There was no celebration, just quiet pride. Her confidence grew with time. She spoke more clearly. She stood straighter. She trusted her instincts. Opportunities appeared, not because someone handed them to her, but because she was ready to take them. Months later, she received a short letter from the mountains. It had no long message, just a few words wishing her well and reminding her that the door was always open. She smiled as she folded it carefully and placed it away. One evening, as she walked home after a long day, she realized something that made her stop in the middle of the street. She was no longer defined by what had happened to her. She was defined by what she had chosen afterward. Freedom, she understood now, was not given in one moment. It was built again and again through courage, honesty, and self-respect. And somewhere far away in the quiet mountains, a man continued his life just as before, never claiming credit, never seeking praise, knowing that true freedom is never about possession, but about letting people go when they are ready. Their paths had crossed for a reason. And because of that, two lives had changed forever.